Good morning. Hello, everybody. This is Tennyson Mkuchini. I am the acting dean for the College of Graduate Studies, but this morning I am in my role as the project leader for this seminal program that we run as part of the offerings that Unisa offers to our honors, masters, and doctoral students. I would like to welcome you all to Cycle 3 of the online accelerated postgraduate support program. We apologize for being slightly late. We were just getting ourselves all powdered out and ready. So we hope to have you with us for a couple of hours at the most. And the idea with this morning is to relaunch what has been a very successful program up to this point. We are hoping that we will not only give you insights into the motivations for why the university needs such a program, but we'll also give you some insights into the key elements of it, with the expectation that you will find it helpful to you. And not only that, we have a question and answer facility. So if you look at the chat options that you have, there's a specific Q&A button that you can click on, and you're most welcome to submit your written questions. This platform that we have, unfortunately, only allows you to type out your questions. We will respond to them during the course of the day. We have a wide breadth of contributors this morning. So we actually have senior management in as far as the research portfolio goes. We also have the acting president of the Students' Representative Council joining us. So we get to really hear about this from as many different angles as possible. But without further delay, I want to introduce you to Professor Khomotso Masemola, who is the Executive Dean for the College of Human Sciences. He himself is a consummate researcher, B-rated researcher actually, so that is quite an exceptional feat to manage somehow when you're in management. But he has a wide-ranging experience in master's and doctoral support, and he will do the welcoming and just some opening remarks. So without further delay, I bring to you Professor Khomotso Masemola. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Professor Tennyson Mkuchini, for affording me the opportunity to be part of this very illustrious interventions, I call it, because the launch basically is going to railroad everybody's progress on an upward trajectory. If you are in postgraduate diploma, obviously you're going to masters, you progress naturally according to the primaries that are being set here to a doctorate. But I'd like to acknowledge the people that made this possible. I thank you, Professor Tenjue Meyiwa, the Vice Principal for Research, Innovation and Commercialization. I also want to acknowledge the work that has been done in the background by Dineo Dube, Darius Reddy, and I remember that Haneli Voluta is also part of this process. I'd like to thank you for allowing this platform to reach out to as many students as we can. I want to welcome all those students who are basically the heart of the knowledge production economy, because these degrees that we are pursuing are not in vain. It is because the National Innovation System of South Africa demands of us to be part of the knowledge economy through your knowledge production. That's why we emphasize original research. That's why we emphasize that the research design that we are going to deploy should be useful in context other than the university that is outside the academy. We expect that you're going to be consultants who are actually very much immersed in the best of scholastic traditions, and will be able to execute programs where if anyone in government in the private sector requires a problem to be solved, you will direct us to those solutions through your research methodology. So it is not just about you getting a master's degree or getting a PhD. It is part of the story that we are all involved in at Unisa, that is lifelong learning for empowerment. I'm very grateful, therefore, this morning that Professor Nkuchini has called me in to talk about this because, you know, for the National Development Plan to take shape, skills at master's and doctoral level are actually requisite. For development to take place, we need to have sound education so that all the spheres of government, that all areas of operation, the private sector can benefit from your skills. And I think it is very important that this morning, as we begin to launch this UCDP program, accelerated online research support program, that we view it in that light. We are using this platform, correct, to leverage the 4IR affordances, fourth industrial revolution affordances, because now we have a community of scholars that are going to be part of a community of best practice by the end of this process. And so I'm grateful that as we begin this bright Monday morning with the training sessions that have been so carefully designed and are bespoke to Unisa, that is what gives us the edge, that all of you will be able to look at this program as a simple gateway to progress. If you have any questions about research design, like I said, methodology, so how to package your knowledge, how to format the thesis, how to see, in other words, the markers of originality in your work, how to push disciplinary boundaries by getting into fields that are going to be a future research niche, how to contribute to the existing niche areas. These things you will discover during the launch and as it progresses forward. I thank you also, Kamamati, for coming. You are leading by example, and I really appreciate that, because at the most times you actually rise to the occasion and let other students see that this is a very important part of university academic life and that we take research seriously. But having said that much, we all know that we have aspirations that are drawn from Agenda 2063. These are brought into confluence with the Sustainable Development Goals. And here we emphasize quality education for transformation. And today it is one such example as we launch the online accelerated student support program in this cycle. Professor Nkuchini, I thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward for many learnings as I continue to glean them as being part of this program. Thank you very much, and I'd like everyone to get ready. We're about to set sailing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Professor Masemola. Eloquent as ever. I thank you very much, Professor Masemola. Eloquent as ever. Thank you also for relating this master's and doctoral journey to wider social imperatives. I think many a time we speak about postgraduate enablement in isolation from the real benefits that it brings, not only for the person who benefits from the study, but every other aspect of societal life that we measure, life expectancy, people's social mobility, all improve once people are enabled as far as postgraduate competence is concerned. And thank you for capturing that. Without going on for too long, I want to briefly introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Thenjiwe Meiwa, who is the Vice Principal for Research, Postgraduate Studies, Innovation and Commercialization at Unisa. She is ultimately the leader who opens up and facilitates all these possibilities. And I would like to welcome her as our keynote speaker. she has, in the time that she's been at Unisa, she has steered us to amazing spaces. You know, many of these things you will know have been ideas that we've spoken about for generations. You know, generations have spoken about having programs that would support students from their home, anytime, anywhere. We've spoken about programs that would capacitate our supervisors anytime, anywhere. And all the decades of talking have culminated to the implementation around the time of Professor Mayiwa's leadership. You can take it that it's a coincidence, but those of us who walk the walk know that it's the enablement and the support that she gives us that has opened up these doors. So I introduce to you Professor Mayiwa. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Mkuchini, for that introduction. And I just want to start off by saying good morning to everybody across the various platforms and the various homes and offices in which you find yourselves. Because nowadays, as Prof. Simula has made reference to, we are actually going this route, which is very much related to what Unisa has always been about, although distant but supportive. I bring you greetings from the Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University, Professor Puleng Linkabula, and management. And I want to be greeting my fellow program participants, including the program director and people behind the scenes to make this program to happen. It's the third year running that we're giving this kind of support. I know a number of you must have been thinking, Unisa's been in the news for wrong reasons, for being in the protest that is this prolonged, elongated. I just want to start off by ensuring that even this kind of activity that we're having this morning is an indication that because of Unisa's status, because of Unisa's structure, we are continuing work. We are acknowledging the challenges that we have. And on behalf of management, I actually have got to say that despite it all, we are able to provide you, and you are very important as a postgraduate student, to ensure that you provide this support, given all the current challenges that we have right now. Exams have run. Some of you possibly, if you are in the postgraduate diploma, you may have started writing your exams. Those that are in honors, you may have started writing your exams. And coincidentally, possibly ironically, find that this year becomes the year in which exams are running better than they have in the past, which demonstrate how resilient Unisa is, which demonstrate how your contribution becomes very important as a graduate student in all of this. So I want to say that we are on course, we're trying as management to sort out the challenges that we're facing as soon as we possibly can, and we want to apologize for not being able to render the full academic program, including graduations, but we're working on ironing things out. Having said that, let me get on to the reason for the day and why we actually are able to continue to be continuing the fashion that we are. Unisa has a historical trend that equals none other university. What's that trend? Possible there's not a single one of you, even across the campuses beyond the shores of the country, that does not have at least one, possible 5, family wants to venture to say so, Unisa graduate. The contribution that the Unisa, as a mega university, a university that has the responsibility of carrying the name of the country is contributing to the labor market. That on its own just goes to demonstrate the contribution that we have, but goes to show that your enrolling for the postgraduate degree, diploma that you have is an indication that you are indeed doing the right thing, because you will be joining a whole lot number of other alumni that are out there who are making this kind of contribution. Just to name a few, for instance, we are the only university that has 2 presidents of the country that actually have walked our shores: President Mandela, President Ramaphosa, 2 governors of the Reserve Bank, a number of ministers. We're graduating some actually this year in the doctoral program. So the contribution in the labor market is one that is very significant. Now, the reason for that is because of the postgraduate program, of this kind of nature. Hence, we conceptualize this support program to ensure that we support you as much as we possibly can to lead you to be in the kind of environment to which Prof. Masembula made reference to earlier as a consultant, possibly running your own business, possibly being in the administration at national, international levels, and possibly being within the fold as an academic or researcher yourself. So with all that said, your visibility by just beginning to enroll with Unisa is assured because of this historical trend that we have already. Talking of visibility, we have been this year alone. I'm not going to go back to the trend, been visible at national level and continue to be. Just watch the space with the national credentials that we are showcasing. We've done that in the world space, the awards that we've had just this past month. We have been listed amongst the universities that have seen the trajectory that's raising upwards in ensuring that the social, economic in particular, the environmental, the education, the gender equality, the quality of our education is improving through the accolades that we got from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, amongst others. So now, what does this mean for you as a postgraduate student? It means you joining a team, you joining supervisors, joining other postgraduate students who may have walked the path and are already UNICEFs, who are having a successful trend of showcasing the fact that we're able to do that. But that, of course, does not just happen automatically. Hence, we have this program to ensure that the support that we provide is not a kind of support that could be hampered by circumstances that are outside of our control, but that is online, that is accelerated, the kind of support that is a pioneering partnership. We expect you individually to be committed, to look for your peers who are going to be part of your support system, but also to participate and adhere to our regulatory frameworks, the procedures within the postgraduate space, and ensure that the support and the programs that we have are programs that yield the success that we seek and envision for you. For us, as Unisa, we want to and are confident that the contribution that we're making very much sticks to the National Development Plan of the land, to which has just been made reference to by the opening remarks of Prof. Masembula, but also the 2063, the United Nations of Africa, who are looking at an Africa that is better, an Africa that is actually at a level that is higher than where it is right now. And the postgraduate student becomes a very important element in the piece of that puzzle to ensure that we see a better Africa. And for us at Unisa, this means that we provide this kind of support. But the kind of support that we provide is not going to be just automatic. It's going to be happening and ensured that it is fruitful. It sees you walking the graduation stage and leading to you making a socio-economic impact that is sterling, that shall see Africa being a better continent than where we are right now because of your commitment. It calls for your commitment to the program. It calls for your passion for what you registered for. It calls for the fact that you are ambitious in the work that we've set up for you. It calls for you to have a solo talk to say that I want to be contracting, to be saying I'm walking this path and wanting to be committing to ensure that I see all that is envisioned by the College of Graduate Studies, by my supervisor, by following the procedures that we expect you to follow, and by ultimately, as we all hope, you delivering on your qualification in the fashion that we expect you to deliver, and also do that during the time limits that are there, that are expected of you. In that fashion, we expect, therefore, and we subscribe and ascribe to excellence. We expect you to be having this impact that's spoken about in a number of studies wherein it is known, aside the fact that putting your foot on the university soil in this country is a privilege of very few. But doing that at a postgraduate level is much more very scarce, and you are a very small number of people who are able to even get to the postgraduate level. Postgraduate people who get to graduate in that fashion contribute socio-economically in the upliftment of the economies of those countries, in upliftment of the social ills of countries that we see because of your research projects that you shall embark on. We believe that with your choices that you're making, you're not going to only be attending to the effects that we see due to poverty, due to unemployment, a number of lack of service delivery, especially if you're in this country. In South Africa, we know as you just drive around, walk around, you see how much there is a need for your skills to ensure that we become a better country, we become a better continent. Now, for those skills to happen, it means you putting efforts, putting your shoulder on the wheel and ensuring that from the start, you avail yourself for this program. You have a contract, a commitment with your supervisor. You follow a number of other programs that we have that will ensure that you get supported from the proposal stage to the writing up of your dissertation, of your thesis, and it is actually not just only a process of you writing all that up, but it is how significant what you're working on is going to make an impact on the social ills that we have, an impact on just this morning, which we've learned the kind of mutilation and the femicide, which is the killing of a number of women and children, girl children at most. So we're looking at your project to ensure that we achieve the ideas of the National Development Plan, the ideas of the African Union, the United Nations of Africa, through its plan that a better Africa is what we want to have. It starts with an individual, you as an individual, to ensure that you are significant in this whole value chain towards having a better globe that starts with an individual who partners, who programs, who's innovative, who actually is programmed to ensure that what we get to have brings about not just only alleviation of the challenges, but integrity, ethics, quality that is assured, and ultimately excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, all of this very much stick to the strategy of the university. We have a strategy of excellence. We have a strategy that's being spearheaded by the Vice Chancellor to look at what are the needs of the country, what are the needs of Africa, what are the needs of the globe, what are the needs of the immediate community. And in that way, we have a number of niche areas that we call catalytic niche areas that in the course of the program, you will learn about, that you will be associated with, looking at, amongst other things, how do we solve the challenge that we are faced with right now of every day we have load shedding. Energy challenges that we have, the climate changes that we have leading to the devastations that we've seen dating back to some which just happened yesterday, some that's just happening this morning. Happening yesterday in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, for instance, dating back to a month ago, happening this morning in the province of the Eastern Cape, for instance, in the Nelson Mandela municipality, where taps are beginning to dry up because of the drought. These are all the challenges that we're looking up to you to contribute towards solving, but solving through, as I repeatedly say, by participating actively on this program that we call Online Accelerated Program, that have you at the center to ensure that quality that we have is one that's impactful, that responds to all the challenges, or most of the challenges that we are faced with. And with this, we expect that you are equally taking cognizant of the strategy of the university, of being innovative in what you do, of documenting what you do in your study, in your groups, towards the publications, so that you become visible in your work, that it's not a question of it's only your thesis, only your dissertation, only your long paper, it's only your profile, but how do you package it so that it is out there, it is known, it assists not just you in your resume to be able to be visible in your pursuance of your career, but also to put Unisa in accordance and in congruence with its strategy and speak better to the imperatives of the National Development Plan and the broader imperatives of the African Union, and ultimately to have this impact that we are all hoping we should be having, and you are at the center of it all, and we hope and know that this support program with you at the center, with your supervisor, both of you or co-supervisors, they're all being holding, walking the path, shall achieve all what I've made reference to earlier in my talk. Thank you so much for this, and I hope that Prof. Nkuchini and colleagues will ensure that as we walk this path, make it a path that is worth remembering for our postgraduate students.
Thank you, Professor Meiwa. I just want to make sure that I'm live. I'm waiting for an indication that the feed has come to me, and I'm waiting for that to happen. Am I live? Right, okay. Yes, I am. Thank you, Professor Meiwa. Thank you once again for doing the very critical part of making sure that we locate this journey that people do as a personal struggle. We locate that in the context of what it really means beyond just you, the student, as an individual. And I think you did an eloquent job of speaking about the micro benefits that come with people studying and excelling at this level. You did an excellent job in terms of the middle level benefits, and most importantly, I think the location of the benefits that speak to the macro picture. That I hope will act as a very clear motivation to all our students, because many a time we have been accused within academia of having very abstract interest and things that we pursue, which don't materialize and inform any big societal problems. And I think the conversation, the speech that you had referred to that potential, and how Unisa are particularly concerned with making sure that we have a footprint that goes just beyond your completed 150-page master's dissertation or your 400-page doctoral thesis. We want that to have a living contribution to life. I was also reassured individually, and I hope that our students will be too, by the fact that we still managed to prioritize the academic project and the academic priority that is central to who Unisa are, in spite of everything else that people might be hearing. And I think this program is an example of that business continues. And there's an irony in this, is that the more adversity we deal with, the more we actually feel a need to excel. So you will find that particular things are actually performing much more aggressively to be better than before, because we are fighting this current that seems to be pulling us back. And I think that reassurance was a perfect way of orientating our students to the fact that storm or no storm, we continue. I also noted the very specific acknowledgement of the VC's 10 catalytic niche areas, and I will speak to those when I orientate our participants to the program that we have. And the expectation really is that when I speak to them, I will not only bring awareness to what they are, but give some rationale for why there's a need for a university to have niche areas that it focuses on. Thank you, Professor Meiwa, for the keynote speech. What I have to do now, I am required to introduce the program, and I'm going to do this. I have a presentation that I'm about to put up. I just want to make sure that it's not superseded by a video. I am actually going to do this presentation live, so we will not need the video. I'm just going to turn on my screen and hopefully also just take off my camera. Right. Now, we have been talking about the program. So this is a very quick walkthrough, essentially how this program came to be, its key components, and also some of the operational structures that we use in the program to support you as the student. Of course, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's an intentional mouthful because we want to make it absolutely clear to the student what the range of things we support you with are. So the program formally is called the Unisa Accelerated Online Postgraduate Research Methodology, Academic Writing and Grant Writing Program. As I proceed through the presentation, you will appreciate why we've had to separate this out. We are on the third cycle of this program. The very first was run just after COVID hit us, so we had an imperative then to go online whether we liked it or not. And at that point, we attracted, I think, the highest registration numbers we had were 3,595 or thereabouts. With the second cycle that we had nearly 5,000 students, and we are referring to actively registered students. But outside of that, we've been able to confirm that we've had 28,000 active students who download our material after the actual live events have happened. So in essence, really the reach that we have is 28,000 students all in all. And I will speak you through what that means in terms of your potential for success. As with everything, there's always a background, there's always a reason why we exist. Sorry, I will just pass through this. There's always a reason why any initiative needs to happen. Of course, the timing, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, was compelled by the non-negotiable appearance of COVID-19. We had to find alternatives that were online, that gave you the opportunity to access everything that we have without you having to step out of whatever safe space you're in. Coincidentally, the message behind COVID-19 really is not a new message for Unisa, because we have long spoken of ourselves as being a distance learning institution, an e-learning institution. So, but the timing, the specific timing of this was triggered by COVID-19. We've also have, over the progression of time, become much more aware of the poor success and completion rates amongst our students. And folks, this issue around completion is a bane of every university. Every university has problems with its success rates amongst the students. And in any one space, you will find that literature talks about anything from 29% of students to as much as 73% of students not making it through their programs. Of course, that range depends on the type of course that people study, the type of institution they're in, the things like the support structures that they're given by the systems that they operate in. In any case, no matter how you look at this, if you think about any journey that you were to travel, and if someone were to say to you, you have a 1 in 3 chance of not making it out of this journey, or the chances of you not making out of this journey would be as high as 3 in 4. You would never embark on that, eh? You would never ever embark on that. If you were to get on a plane or get on a taxi and someone said there's a 1 in 3 chance that you will drop out, you will not make it to the end, or there's a 3 in 4 chance that you would not make it to the end, you would not embark on that. But somehow this postgraduate journey comes with that level of risk. So clearly there's a need for whoever is supporting the students to do everything that has been empirically shown to make a difference. And the empirical evidence is very clear about, they talk about the triad of things that support the student. And firstly, they talk about the type of supervision that you get, and that the supervision that you get has everything about how you travel the journey that you travel. There's also this issue, the differentiator between students who study in isolation and those who study with a peer group that influences them. And of course, the final thing that has been shown to differentiate those who succeed and those who do not is the existence of a formalized structure of support. If you look at those 3 things that change your trajectory in terms of whether you will make it through or not make it through, this project offers you the opportunity for the betterment of each of those 3 fixers, as we call them. So really, if you kind of think about how we got to having this project, it feels like a no-brainer, but as you all know, the complexity of life is finding simple answers to all the things that seem difficult. And this is our view of what the most basic necessary support structure you need to have as a student should look like. We are also aware that outside of these treacherous numbers that I've mentioned to you, we have specific areas where people struggle. So we know that the first year is when the first year of any postgraduate study is where things go very wrong. So at that level, we have, when I share with you what the project does, you will notice that we have a huge emphasis on giving you that inertia to survive all the traumas of the first year. We also know that at the end of your first year, there is a requirement that people complete their proposal. And currently, the current numbers were showing that in a 12-month period, 3/4 of our students were not finishing the proposals when they ought to. And programs such as this can literally take the inverse of that number, where you end up with just 27% of the students not finishing. So you can literally turn that number backwards, that those who are not succeeding become the percentage that were not succeeding become the percentage that now succeed, purely through having a structured format that walks you through the journey at time intervals that we know speak to the university's requirements. We also have the challenge that as we have progressed and become much more sophisticated in our expectation of you as students, we ask that students be able to publish their work. And Professor Mayua spoke about that sharing of making sure that our work goes as far across the world as possible, because if appropriately gauged, it should be speaking to problems that are not just in your corridor or on your street, but problems that impact the rest of the world. So for you to communicate that, we need to enable you so you can write for publication. And the current picture is that at Unisa, our students have comparatively poor publication records, and also we have very low grant attainment rates. And you will all know that as students, you struggle to get through your study because it has implications, cost implications that your life is not built up to accommodate. And on average, every student has the opportunity to get into a competitive grant-seeking process. And our rates have traditionally not been competitive in relation to other similar institutions as us. So we need to fix that. We're also aware of the fact that traditionally Unisa appealed and spoke to a very specific student demographic. We used to have, by and large, we had students that were kind of studying either to enhance an existing career journey. They were studying to divert from something that they were doing, one of those types of reasons. But for the most part, they had some gainful employment coming into this. So when they studied with us, the measurement of whether our journey of study impacted their prospects for employment did not seem such a priority. Of course, over the last decade, that's changed. Our demographics are just as active in attracting post-high school type students who are literally studying with the expectation that when they leave, they will be commercially viable. So what this project does is we have a particular part that speaks to operationalizing that viability requirement that you have as a student. And then, of course, I spoke about the triad of support, the triad being that you can only do this journey if you have a very capacitated supervisory machinery supporting you. So this project also, as part of the project, we have an extended interest and support framework for supporting our supervisors. This slide here just tells you a little bit about the standout things that the project does, the different elements of the project, and the multifaceted nature of how the support runs and the length of times that each of these offerings run for. So we know, and I omitted to speak specifically about our honors students. When we ran this program the first time, we did not have honors students, but it became very clear that that was a grave omission, because one of the biggest criticisms we have around our student populations at master's and doctoral level is that we say they are underprepared. And clearly that underpreparedness issue plays itself out at honors level. And if we think clearly about this, then we need to attract our honors students so they too become prepared in the expectations of master's and doctoral work. But in saying that, we have a very substantial set of issues that crop up over and over and over again, and they all speak to people's basic foundational competencies around how well people, how literate they are, their numeracy capabilities, their abilities to write in a scholarly and argumentative way, their understanding of things like plagiarism, their understanding of different referencing conventions that we work with. And for that, we designed what we call a foundational academic integrity development Mooc. This is a 3-week course that we run, and we offer it to every student, and you can go on it 10 times over. And it basically, over that 3 weeks time, you work with a range of facilitators who will be giving you exercises and things that you do to improve on your skills around how well you reference, how well you're able to argue your case, being able to develop skills around reading academic content in a way that's appropriately critical. So all of that stuff we attend to, and we attend to in that foundational course that we have. So that, in all likelihood, when we is probably going to start the first week of, probably in the next 2 weeks or so, we will open that up, and it will be available to everyone for the whole entire period of the 6 months that we run the active part of the program. So you can do it over and over and get better at it. Secondly, the program has 6 student support streams that speak to the different danger points that we spoke about, where I mentioned that surviving the proposal is a difficult thing. And of course, once people have survived the proposal, there is the issue of how they survive the rest of the journey. So you will see that we have a master's and doctoral level proposal development part that runs for 6 months. We also have a similar separated out structure for helping people in developing their dissertation or thesis. So we have training on data collection approaches, training on how to write your chapters, training on the different assessment analysis tools that are out there. In addition to that, we have what is popularly referred to as higher order research skills, training you to be able to write a journal article, write a chapter for a book, training you on how to apply for a grant and actually succeed in getting that grant. And finally, the last part of the program is this capstone social entrepreneur stroke employment readiness cafe that we run. It's the first initiative ever that Facebook Africa have done with any university in the world, not in South Africa, not in Africa, in the world. And basically what we do is we use Facebook Africa have access to a wide range of very successful entrepreneurs who come onto the program to share their secrets around how you develop your interest into something that's commercially viable. They speak to you about self-marketing, how you write your CV, how you position your studies in such a way that they become a plug and play for commercial viability. So that goes on for a good 12 weeks or so. And of course, we run it at the latter part of the lifeline of the project, so that by then students have got the do or die imminent issues out of the way. You've done your proposal, you're clear about your chapters, you're clear about the papers that you're writing, and you're now thinking, where do I sit for the future? So this does that. Of course, just as a quick illustration of the other things that the project speaks about, I'm pulling those things out because they have a very specific importance in the space and time that we're in. So you will know that much of what Unisa has done over the course of time is to actually challenge existing social structures that discriminate against particular groups or perpetuate things that we know to be not good for our humanity. And so the project specifically places a very, very keen eye on issues such as making sure that we really train our students on how to integrate indigenous knowledge systems, concepts around Africanization, concepts around decoloniality, so that you integrate that in your work in a way that allows us to have a very clear African discourse to this whole world of research, which unfortunately seems to still be heavily driven by Western epistemologies. And we as Unisa, you as a Unisa student, are at the forefront of changing this. It is no coincidence that facts such as what Professor Mayiwa mentioned about the fact that we're the only university that has 2 presidents and so forth and so forth. All of those things are a product of the fact that we are about correcting the wrongs of society while people learn. So this project really pulls out those competencies and we train you in them. We also are aware that in this world, monolithic or single discipline type of research really has been outpaced by the complexity of problems. There's no single problem that matters to human beings that can be studied only from one disciplinary position. Anything. If you think of anything that has been problematic to you or challenged you, it has a face that covers more than one discipline. So it makes total sense that we capacitate you in being able to develop multi, inter, and transdisciplinary research projects. And that is a skill because it is a skill where you have to somehow retain your professional identity if you're someone from the humanities without, or social sciences or natural sciences. You want that discipline specific part of you to stand out, but you also want to show your awareness of the bigger picture. And that comes through this appreciation and being able to integrate multi, inter, and transdisciplinary priorities. Then, of course, at a much more local space for us as Unisa, there are 10 specific niche areas that our Vice Chancellor and Council have identified as being things that we need to prioritize as Unisa so that our work speaks to those things, our the implications for practice that come from our work speak to those things. I've named the 10 catalytic niche areas. I will not go through them in the interest of managing time, but I thought that you should get a sight of them. I should also mention that there are very specific reasons why entities have niche areas. So sometimes we look at current representation in specific discipline areas. So if you take aviation and aeronautical studies, for example, and you just go and look at the demographic appearance of who is represented in that space, you will find that the populations that we are seeking to get equality for are not represented. So it makes sense that the university that has the biggest social justice mandate to carry prioritizes that as an area to fix. We also know that there are specific areas that are speaking of the future, you know, areas that are telling us where we are going, and we do not want people with non-African agendas to be the ones who get to the finish line before us. So things like space study, the square kilometer array, all of that speak to us making sure that we are at pole position when the race for the 4th industrial revolution benefits comes. We need to be right at the front of it. Then, of course, some of the things that we have chosen here speak to much more societal corrective things that we need to speak about around feminism, Bosadi theorizations, and so forth. So, but as we get into the project, you will fully understand how there is possibilities for you to make sure that your project speaks to those things, but still has the discipline distinction that you want it to have. So this here is the whole range of things in front of you. You have the whole range of interventions that we offer as a program. The one standout issue that I've not spoken to, and I just want to mention as a reassurance, is the supervisor capacity development interventions that are also part of the bigger work that this portfolio does. We know that if as students you are expecting to be supported by supervisors who are capacitated to the very, very best possible level that they can be. And previous iterations of this program came back with lots of feedback from students where there was worry that our programs are not speaking, to the supervisory needs that are out there. So we have spoken to those, and this very, very intervention completes that whole triad of offering you the support that you deserve and need to fight against those unhelpful statistics that I shared with you. How we do that is through 3 different levels of support. The first level of support that we have is we have the didactic traditional lectures that we run. When we facilitate those lectures, they are run from 6 to 9 p.m. every weekday, and that should not worry you. The reason it's 6 to 9 p.m. is we've done a number of surveys with all the students, and they identified that window of time as a time when they are ready to be part of the live events. But remember, this platform allows anytime, anywhere access. So retrospectively, you can come back 2 years later at 3 a.m. on a random date. If you know the topic you're after, you will find it in our repository. We have a repository, we have a YouTube channel that contains the very live lectures that you would have missed. It also contains PowerPoint slides and so forth. Secondly, we have small focus group support clusters for students. These are basically, we call these blast sessions. And if there's anything that students are doing, have reported themselves as struggling with particularly, we will have a blast session. So we will have, there are students who will say, look, we've got our research right, but the ethical clearance documentation makes no sense to us. So we will offer smaller group blast sessions on how to complete your ethical clearance application forms. Then finally, we have this one-to-one support structure where your supervisor that you are formally allocated to will engage with you and say to you, look, I believe that you have a very specific need for something that I do not have the resource to offer by the very nature of the work that they do. So we get, last year, I think we looked through probably 350 or so proposals that were sent to us by supervisors and students, where supervisors would say, look, my student has got the basic concept of their study right, but their level and type of academic writing needs to be bettered somehow. And we, in our supervisory relationship, can't fix that, but can your project specifically support with that? And we had those submissions and we responded to them. That is essentially what this program gives you. It's a big ask. We've done it 3-4 times now, two previous times, and we're on our 3rd run. We get more and more sophisticated the more we do. We are, of course, we are very proud of the work that we're doing. We're also aware of the fact that it needs to be a responsive program. So with this program, we offer the ability for ongoing reviews from students, where we change what we're offering as and when the students call upon us to change it. So that is the program in short. It runs. We aspire, we try to have 2 deliveries in a year. We've had a somewhat unusual year, as you know. The closing date for registrations, postgraduate registrations, was just at the end of last month, so we couldn't essentially run the program until we had the students. So we are now doing the first we are now doing the first delivery, which will begin in earnest in the probably, I think, the very clear sessions will start on the first week of June. But between now and that time, we will be sending a lot of communications to students asking you to register yourself onto the program, and registration is simple. We send you all a link and you go on there and we ask questions about your specific areas of need, the things that you want to be supported with. And once we have that, we will then we revise elements of the program to be able to deliver to those needs. And we have probably 3 or 4 such question opportunities for you, so that you can absolutely make sure that every arising challenge that you have is attended to. One last thing to say about this is to just be very specific about the fact that the program is an ancillary support program to your supervisor. So we are not an instead of. The supervisor is still the primary support, but there's evidence that the range of needs that people have are things that supervisors can't realistically deal with. No supervisor would have the opportunity or resource to sit you down and speak you through all the different quantitative designs, all the different qualitative traditions, all the hybrids of mixed methods research. But our project can do that. The program does that and does it well. So when you go to your supervisor, you have the required knowledge to be able to engage meaningfully in conversations about your choice of methodology, how you problematize the area that you've chosen, those types of things. So this program has that function. It's not an instead of supervisor, it is in addition to the supervisor. And I hope the brief summary gives you enough of a taste to see what is in store. We use wide-ranging and very accomplished facilitators who are multi-methodologists. They understand the research game, they understand the success game very, very well, and you will have exposure to that. Many of them have taught in a number of very similar programs, and so this journey is just new in that you are new clients, but the actual machinery is very well tested. So I hope that provides the right assurance. I want to ask that if any of you have questions about this, you type them up on the chat. We have a specific session for questions and answers. But before that, now that I've set up the journey that we're offering to support you through, it's important that we throw in the right mix of motivational presence. And that leads me to our next speaker, Ms. Mati Kama, who is the acting president for the Student Representative Council for Unisa. And she has a message of support to all of you students, and also is confirming without any doubt that they believe that this course is a necessary prescription for your range of ails. So on that note, I want to give the floor to Kama and hope that she will be she has the connectivity to get on. She's not in the country as we speak, so we are hoping that the connection holds out. Kama, the floor is yours. Welcome, and thank you once again for making sure that you're part of this very, very seminal launch. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Good morning to yourself, Professor K. Masamula, who's the Executive Dean, College of Human Science, Professor T. Meyiwa, the Vice Principal, Research, Innovation, and Commercialization, and the organizers of this event. I greet you all this morning from Dar es Salaam. Habari za asubuhi. They say in Rome you do as Romans do. Good morning to our key stakeholders, which is our students as well. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for this event that seeks to improve the lives of our postgraduate students. Mine is to give a message of support, and I will start by saying that research is recognized as a vital element in innovation and national economic growth, and that research education has become a matter of greater concern for both the government and the public. Since 2004, universities and governments have raised concerns about the declining rates of timely completion among postgraduate students. And due to academic ratings, supervisors are now more than ever pressurized to deliver as many doctoral students as possible in the short time frame, and in turn, the pressure builds on the students to perform and deliver quality theses in the shortest time possible. This has resulted in increased enrollments in higher degree, with the postgraduate supervisors required to supervise more research students than ever before. As a result, the changing postgraduate supervision landscape of higher education institutions in South Africa has become a much contested area and one of the core academic activities for higher education qualifications. It is noted that research is key to postgraduate studies and constitutes the main difference, and an undergraduate and a postgraduate degree program. Muzelwana 2016 reveals how studying for a doctorate may take years in intensive work and study. Given the limited emphasis placed on research in undergraduate studies and a surface approach to learning adopted by some universities in developing countries, the journey to becoming a researcher may be a daunting experience for many postgraduates. Postgraduate students may face uncertainties due to a lack of research background because they are from an education system that research was not emphasized. They may therefore not be familiar with different aspects to research, including those related to the nature of the research process and discourses around requirements such as originality or contributions to knowledge. McGee and Dupree's 2017 discussion on aspirations is based on Janssen's 2015 assertion that current and prospective students aspire to do well in their studies, whether at school or at university level. Aspirations refer to wishes or desires expressed by students about their future and can be defined as a strong desire, longing, aim, or ambition. It is a strong desire to achieve something such as success. The willingness to learn in order to achieve success is usually motivated by the fact that students desire to make their parents, teachers, and the community they live in proud. Students with aspirations dream and imagine the possibilities that await them. They aspire to have successful careers or even to be the president of the country. For most individuals, pursuing doctoral studies, the PhD is a pinnacle of achievement and academic reputation. According to SALI 2014, there is a burgeoning and intensifying interest in the postgraduate sector of higher education. Evans 2014 uncovers how countries, particularly in Asia and Africa, are aggressively trying to catch up with extraordinary, ambitious, and largely unrealistic growth goals for their universities. This has resulted in the increasing massification of higher education and increased access to higher education, as evidenced in rising doctoral student registration numbers. Massification, as observed by Samuel, has introduced into the higher education system a much wider range of individuals with varied purposes for pursuing a study beyond their master's level. Initially, postgraduate supervision was largely and generally assumed to be the preparation of new academics, as well as growing and amplifying the disciplines and contributing in various ways to the development of the new knowledge. But this has changed with the introduction of students who pursue doctoral studies for social and credential inflation, for social status, of perpetuation of economic powers, of political and industrial or business terms. Due to this, there is now more than ever before an increasing number of students in uncharted territory registering for doctoral studies in South Africa's higher education systems. Literature also reveals how the doctoral journey can be a source of uncertainty and anxiety that at times results in tensions between doctoral students and supervisors. It is usually referred to as being an emotional, lonely, and one in which postgraduate students experience problems related to issues such as the supervisor either being too busy to be effective in his or her role, tensions and conflicting perspectives within the supervisory role, selflessness and disrespectfulness, poor or delayed feedback in relation to students' research work, and limited knowledge and expertise in the field of study. Apart from the COVID-19 pandemic that has forced universities to shut down and resort to online learning, Unisa has had a long tradition of distance and online learning. This new research course will be offered online for over 25,000 masters and doctoral students worldwide. We encourage our students to go out there to register and also enjoy the course. Thank you and all the best to our masters and doctoral students. Thank you to you as well, Prof, for the time and opportunity given. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kamamati. Thank you for taking the time from Dar es Salaam to give a student face to this engagement. I think you made reference to issues around the anxiety that people deal with throughout this journey that they have. You also spoke about, the supervisory challenges that often everyone knows exist, but there's never really a space for them to be dealt with or attended to in a very conscious way. They are almost that secret taboo that is not spoken about. Thank you for shedding a light on that. And I hope that what this does to each of the students who listen to you is that it gives them a sense about the transparency with which this program runs, that there is actually no postgraduate issue that is off limits in as long as it speaks to issues around progression and completion in masters and doctoral journeys, in each of your masters and doctoral journeys. So above all, we have tried, we continue to try to make sure that the student-centeredness of this initiative is never lost. And because of that, those who attend the program, you will notice that we have quite a number of moments where you get to speak to different student leaders so they can give you motivation from a perspective or a vantage point that is less believable if it's coming from someone who is not, in your eyes, on the same boat that you're on. So I think that moment allowed us that. Thank you very much once again, Kama. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now at the point where we are entertaining and looking through the questions that have been posed by those who've attended. One of some of the questions that we have looked at are, and we usually get this with the launch, there's usually quite an excitement around all the problems that the program will fix, so much so that some of the questions that we get are questions about the things we will deal with in future sessions. So we will have people who've been asking about challenges that they might experience when they are dealing with particular methodological options, challenges that they need to deal with when they are relating to supervisors where a specific dynamic exists. And the answer to all those questions, without being dismissive, is that join us for the program. We look at those from multiple perspectives. One thing I hope your postgraduate exposure has shown you is that everything you look at has at least a handful of perspectives that are viable in their own right and need to be presented to you so you can apply your own circumspection to make decisions about what it is that works best for you and doesn't work best for you. So we are all about very critically and scholarly informed options that we propose to people. And if there's anyone who has those questions, please join us for at least one of the live sessions so that we can give real inertia to the question that you have posed. Secondly, we've had questions about when the academic writing and those types of things will run. What would probably be a good way to respond to all of that is just to share what the process that happens from here on looks like. So every single honors, master's, and doctoral student that is registered at Unisa, we will formally send you all a link that gives you the opportunity to take a 5-minute or so quiz, and in that process register yourself. And once you are registered, immediately within 48 hours of us receiving registrations, we generally send out the entire program for the next 6 months. So that program comes with live links, and whenever you are free and are able, or any point really, if you want to pursue a particular topic, if it is a retrospective topic, you click on that link, it will take you to the recording that has already occurred. You can watch it, you can also access the notes. So this schedule that we'll send to you is not a schedule just for those who attend, it's a schedule for you recuperating things that you've missed, understanding what's upcoming, all those types of things. And similarly, this session that we have today is on the program. There's a link on the program we'll share with you. And once the recording is available, you will be able to click on that link and access it. So that basically answers a lot of the questions that have been asked, where participants are asking for details about the classes and so forth. There's someone who's doing their own honors, and they are not in public population, and they want to know whether it's possible to do research if you're incarcerated and unable to come out. Look, Unisa has generational advantage in being able to open that space. So all that we would just need to do is, firstly, the answer is yes, there's every prospect of you doing research outside while you're inside, literally. Secondly, we have supported quite a number of students who were incarcerated. Some were even referred for one-to-one sessions, and we would arrange them as MS Teams events. Of course, the topic and your access to data collection options needs to be thought about in respect of where you are. And more times than not, the types of studies that people end up doing by virtue of this intractable limitation they have is that they will do secondary data kind of research where they are reviewing online repositories to look at certain things and so forth. So that's basically how we would capacitate that. But the truth is that, yes, we do support you. There is no space for any of our students where we say we can't get to. We will get to you. We may have to renegotiate things and think of options, but we will get there. I'm just looking at the next questions. There are observations people have made where someone's asked for advice on how to be a well-established researcher. The first thing that you need to do is for us to broaden your understanding of all the key competencies that research demands of you. And knowing not just one pathway, not knowing one methodology, not knowing one particular publication output to write for. And this program speaks to all those things. So it is certainly the first step. We of course have to think about future mentoring possibilities and so forth and so forth. But as you know, the journey never ever ends. There is no single academic who feels that they've done everything that they need. They can have piles and piles of doctorates and still feel that they need to do more. So that journey does not stop. Their request for slides, I think I've spoken to that. There is a question about memorandum with supervisors and so forth. And what I say to that is, folks, we have to kind of have a discipline in trying to differentiate between the things that the launch can deal with and the things that the program can deal with. So that question is really a programmatic, program level question, because it normally would come as one of our first lectures, actually, where we speak about setting up your supervisory relationship, specifying your topic, managing that element of your journey. So if I could ask the person who's posed that to bring it to our first session, where we will give it the appropriate attention. And it clearly is not a one word answer here, and that's part of the reason it can't be attended to in this way. For PhD, 2 articles are required from 1 research proposal. I think once again, this question is a question to do with people being exposed to the possibilities of their study. When we talk about you fully understanding where your study can reach, then you will suddenly realize that actually 2 articles is not a big ask if you have done and thought your study through in the way that we will coach you to do in the project. There's a question about being able to access material after the fact. And folks, the material is available regardless of whether you've attended or not. We regularly even send things to students who did not register, because we know that ultimately sometimes people only recognize that they're in dire straits when they're in dire straits. And so if they've got this repository of emails giving them access to our teaching material, they will utilize it at some point. There are some questions about accessing ethical clearance forms and all of that. All of those things, folks, are part of what the program follows. Okay, so there's a question that talks to how we differentiate between the master's and doctoral streams. So there's many sessions that can be taught. Now, firstly, just as a point of note, when you register, we ask you the level of study you're in, and that gives us a sense of the things that we target you for. So clearly we will know what level of study you're at. We will direct you to the things that we believe your rank of study should and must be part of. We open up all the other levels, so you can, if you're a master's student, you can still attend doctoral sessions, but we make sure that we tell you clearly what your priority space that you should seek to be part of will be. Okay, so there is a question about confusion around proposals and all of that. This is the very course that does that. It's just that the launch won't do it. The launch is to advertise ourselves, but actually the questions that people have about how they deal with preparing their proposal for acceptance into different departments that we work with. There's concerns about that. This was communicated late. Folks, we have been running with the advertisement of this probably for a good 20 days now. And given the context of how we know who we should find, you will notice that we actually had very unusually quick responsive times. We only know who is registered when registration closes. And registration in the main closed on the last day of April. So between then, we had to populate numbers, do all sorts of things. And this is as fast an event or as fast an invitation timeline that we can give. But we are always reassured by the fact that we have a good 15, 20,000 students who access this after the fact. And that is merely because this time in the day would never work for many and so forth. But the access to the experience will continue to be there. And as I've said, we are emailing once again every registered student, so no one gets missed. If anything, we actually have people who complain that they're getting one too many emails, and that is a current condition that we're willing to tolerate because we're coming from a space where we were missing people. We will become sophisticated and clean it up, but that is exactly, we would rather inundate you with our presence than be absent entirely. Then, of course, there is the observation about lack of responsivity or lack of responsiveness from lecturers, and I'm assuming that refers in broad terms to supervisors. Look, that report is a frequently reported and unfortunate space, but what we do on the program is, one, we coach you on many things that you would need support with. And one of the things that's become very, very obvious is that sometimes the student and the supervisor have such limited clarity about availability of one to the other that you get students who will literally email their supervisor every week to say, this is a choice I've made, what do you think? And the first few weeks that kind of can work, but once the journey progresses, it becomes a lot more of a challenging cycle of communication. And often the things that are being asked are things that we would have reasonably taught you if you had been part of this program. So we are not excusing the responsibility issues. We are actually tackling them with the supervisors during the supervisory training that we give them. But in dealing with them, we also acknowledge that we need to make our students be the typical postgraduate students. So they are not writing to supervisors for things that may be things that they would have ordinarily known on their own had they been more ready. And we are dealing with your readiness. So those are the questions that we have that have been published, and I hope that it offers enough reassurance about the program. Any of you who want to access this after the fact, you will get an email with a link. You can also go to the program that you get when you register and click on today's event, and you will get the recording. So on that note, I think I want to pass the closure of the event and the vote of thanks back to Professor Masemola, who opened the event for us. And I hope that everyone who has attended this finds some way to make sure that they stay connected, because it's one of those three things that will ensure your survival in what has been proven time and time again to be a much more lethal journey than we sometimes give it credit for. Thank you, Professor Masemola. I give the floor to you to take us out gracefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mkuchini. What a wonderful morning it has been. We've gleaned pearls of wisdom from yourself, from Professor Mayua, and from Kamamati. You've done all that is possible to inaugurate the process of success in MND studies, especially on an online platform. I want to pay special mind to the point that we made, Professor Mkuchini, about the complementarity of this program with the actual supervisor and student relationship. This is going to cement the process rather than destroy what is already there. And I think that if we buttress it on sound principles that you have outlined this morning, Professor Mayua and yourself, Professor Mkuchini, we have better prospects of success for each and every student that's always had doubts. You use a very strong word that it's lethal, this process, but it can be comfortable if you adhere to the most basic of principles in research. And my hope is that everyone attending this morning will be able to adhere to those principles and guidelines so that you have fewer cases of desperate plagiarism, we have fewer cases of a irretrievable breakdown between the student and the supervisor, but rather we see more publications coming out of that relationship. And I think that what you have done, Professor Mkuchini, is something quite extraordinary, because it speaks to one of the strategic focus areas of being leading researchers on the continent using the ODEL platform. It's a key function and it's part of the Unisa 2030 strategy. And I think you are rolling it out in a very intelligent way, in a way that's discernible to researchers. And I'd like to thank everybody for being here with us this morning and starting this new journey with us, because some things cannot be dealt with the supervisor, but the program can address them on the fringe and still have greater impact on your work and give you much more confidence to be in control of the subject that you're studying or researching. That note, I thank you all, Professor Mkuchini, especially for making it possible for us to sit and talk about things that are very delicate. Often we step on each other's toes. Sometimes we say them tongue in cheek, but today we managed to lay things bare in a very candid fashion. And so I'm grateful. Lastly, I'd like to thank Bronwyn Zenge and her team for setting this meeting up online, so that we are present, although we are in different places. I'd like to thank you very much, Professor Mkuchini. Thank you very much. Thank you.